Welcome back, everybody, to another video. Today we're talking about terminologies. There's been a lot of terms used in the videos that I've been creating, and now that we've reached almost 210 videos, sometimes it's nice to take a step back, go through some of the basics again, and talk about something that many of you have asked me on stream and on Twitch and on here on Discord. Avenger, can you talk a little about terminologies? Because sometimes the language I take for granted, maybe stuff that people, like when I say S-turns, yaw fighting inside the cone, many people, even though there are specific videos on each of these tactics and maneuvers, sometimes you might see them out of order, or perhaps it was your first time watching a video and you've never even heard of the term extensions. So what we're going to help try to do here and clear some things up is we're going to just briefly go through some explanations of what each of these terms mean, so that you can better understand what I'm talking about and maybe make these videos seem a little more user-friendly for some of the beginner pilots out there who are expecting to get better and are excited to get themselves 1% better every day. Okay, so again, each of these concepts has their own unique video that can go deeper on each of these. So if the brief explanation is a little bit vague, hopefully it's just to give you a brief idea of the concept of it, and then if you want to watch the more deeper in-depth ones, feel free to watch the videos. So getting started, let's talk about rate fighting. So basically what rate fighting is each ship has a maximum turn rate. That rate correlates to how fast their nose can move from a neutral position to whatever position within 1 second. So if your rate is 55 degrees per second, which is the rate of the Gladius, that in 1 second, I'm going to move from 0 to 55 degrees in that 1 second. The lower the rate, the lower the turn that you're going to do within that second. This allows people who have higher turn rates to get closer to their enemy so that they can get what's called under their nose, which means if you're, let's say, fighting in a Vanguard and your speed is relatively low and you're fighting something like, say, an Arrow or a Gladius, if the Gladius gets, say, within 200 meters or 300 meters, the rate of the Vanguard will not be able to catch up to the rate of the Gladius or the Arrow that's attacking it. So it could potentially get on top of it, and the Vanguard would never be able to get its nose onto its enemy because the distance between you and him is too close, right? So that's what I mean when I say rate fighting, okay? S-turns are something I talk about a lot on this channel, and what that basically means is, if you look at these pictures I'm putting up here, you're creating a snake pattern in space as you move your way towards your opponent, right? Using our bottom thrusters, what we're going to do is we're always going to look visually at the enemy's kind of flight pattern, and what we're going to do is we're going to kind of move our way again up towards our enemy, and we're not going to do it by strafing right and left and kind of moving towards them. We're going to roll into the turn, we're going to get across his nose, and then as we cross his nose, we're going to keep moving across his nose like this as we slowly move ourselves up to the enemy, thus drawing an S in space. It's basically you're starting a corkscrew and then you're canceling it and reversing it, canceling and reversing it, canceling and reversing it, but it's all relative to when you pass the enemy's nose. That's the most important part. Okay, so when I say extensions, what I mean by extensions is, let's say you were that Vanguard pilot and the Arrow or the Gladius is within so many meters of you and you just simply can't shake them, right? The best thing to do in this situation is do what's called an extension, which means you extend the distance between you and your opponent via a main thruster push, via tricording, via a reverse thrust, or via a 180, like a 180 nose turnaround, which again is its own video. Each of these techniques allows you to create space between you and your enemy, which then allows you to get, let's say, a ship with a lower turn rate back in the fight, back with its guns on target, and back in there getting the kills. When I talk about pitch and yaw fighting, what I'm talking about is the directional movement of the nose and what direction you are tracking in. This picture here will help illustrate what's called pitch fighting. And when I typically watch and train new pilots, I always tell them, because a lot of times, and even I do this too, right, is a lot of times we track in what's called yaw, which means if we're looking at our enemy, if we make movements like this, that's yaw. Now, if we make movements like this, that's pitch. Okay, so we always want to roll into our shot and pitch onto our target. We never want to just track our target with our yaw, because what ends up happening is the responsiveness of the ship in this direction is very quick and responsive. So we can make adjustments to our aim. This movement is sloppy. It's not as responsive. So we want to roll and track as we move our target, but we want to avoid kind of staying in yaw here. That doesn't mean that we can't take a shot in yaw. It just means that we want to slowly move our way into a pitch shot. Okay. Pre-turning and advanced nose just simply means that what you're doing is, in order for you to get your shot or get your distance you're looking for, so get within 800 meters of your opponent, what you're going to do is you're going to nose in the direction that they want to go. So let's say they're going to go past you this way. So you're going to nose in that direction, as we see the picture here, and you're going to use your main thruster to accelerate up to their speed so that you get within the 800 meters you're looking for. And once you've accelerated and merged up to their speed, then you can start fighting at those speeds and hopefully get the kill. What's called killing in the slot or the kill box that you hear me talking about in some videos means the blind spot. Now, for most fighters, the blind spot is behind them, right? And that's where you want to go. If you are nose to nose and you are both exchanging fire, that does not mean you're in the slot. It means that you're in a fight. And if you get closer, it starts to be a rate fight. Until then, it's an aim duel, okay? So, that being said, if you want to get into the slot, either surprise somebody or force them into a rate fight, get under their turn rates, and keep that position, whether it's a down strafe, whether it's a left or right strafe, whatever you need to do to hold that position. Hold that position. It's the position that you should always be looking for in every fight you can. If they give you their back, hold that spot as best you can. Wave pattern is something I talk about too as well. Sometimes people get a little confused when I say set a wave pattern, and this picture right here might help illustrate it. Again, smaller movements, smoother and closer together equal better shots, period, right? Or remember, you never want to sacrifice your positional direction or aim for just being hyper evasive unless you're engaging multiple opponents and you're trying to get out of there. Okay, so this is what I mean by wave patterns, making those small movements close together to get the pip to be a little confused, forcing the enemy to get closer to you to reduce the amount of deflection angles that you might be doing to them at longer range. This pattern works extremely well for somebody who is shooting at you from long range and it just doesn't want to close to within gun range. Wave patterns work really well. A little bit of roll, a little bit of upstrafe, and just kind of smoothly translate between those movements is very effective. Momentum cancel is something that you need as a heavy fighter pilot more than anything. It's also important to use as a light fighter as well, so it's one of your fundamentals that you need to know. Okay, this is under my core skills playlist, as well as a few or not all of these different terminologies. And again, guys, don't forget, each of these is its own separate video that might help go deeper onto each of these things to help you become a better pilot. Okay, momentum cancel just simply means I'm going to strafe in the direction of their momentum. It doesn't mean where they're orientated. It means where they're moving. So if they're aiming over to this way, but they're flying this way on your screen, that means you're going to cancel their momentum by getting a strafe down into the right, okay? Which is going to always move in the direction that they are moving in. This is really important for heavy fighters because it helps take away the positional and dogfighting capabilities to some degree when it comes to light fighters versus heavies. Delta merging is another form of advanced nose or some kind of merging, but basically what I'm doing is I'm reducing the amount of accelerational difference between me and my enemy, and how we do that is we always maintain sight picture on our enemy by always blading off towards our enemy. And if we know that they're going to come at us in a very fast joust, we're going to backpedal, we're going to push back with reverse thrust, we're going to keep our eyes on our enemy. We're going to reduce the acceleration difference or his approach speed to me until we reach a speed that, let's say, is small enough, or the difference between my acceleration and his is small enough that we can slowly let him come towards us, slowly, until then we can turn the fight around because we've now accelerated up to the speed that he's fighting at. We do this through a back strafe and by blading off towards our opponent and watching the distance and the acceleration between myself and the enemy. Let him come to us. Fighting inside the cone and fighting inside the bubble are two very important concepts that I always talk about. And what this simply means is, relatively speaking, again, because it's all relative, is fighting inside the cone is if you were to imagine a cylindrical cone attached on his side and you, so that no matter what's happening, let's say our fighter here is one end of the cone and our laser pen here for Grogu is our other side of the cone. Doesn't matter how much the fight circles around and does anything, there's an imaginary cone that encircles you and your enemy, right? And what's happening is you want to move around that cone, because what's going to happen is you don't want to create too high of a deflection angle, because he's going to be able to keep tracking you on that movement. What you want to do is you want to kind of stay within those few first degrees of his cone, and you want to kind of keep forcing these small changes and keep getting him to try and track you as you slowly fight inside the cone. But imagine you're inside this imaginary cone and you're kind of moving around his nose within a few degrees, let's say 10 or 15 degrees, to keep yourself on target. And again, never sacrifice your nose on your enemy. Always maintain control and positive nose direction against your enemy. Never give up your gun time. Always go for gun time. Next is what's called fighting inside the bubble, which just simply means that the area of movement, let's say somebody is shooting inside the cone. So let's say this microphone here is us, and our enemy here is orbiting around us, shooting inside. He's orbiting this way, he's orbiting this way, he's moving. He's trying to stay outside, but he's creating a lot of energy, right? So instead of getting closer and making small movements and getting into a fight, he's staying farther away, and he's making these long sweeping movers, shooting inside our movement area. Now we can accelerate up to him and bring our energy state really high, but that also makes things a little bit easier to apply damage, so you got to be very careful. So what we do is we keep our speed low and we fight inside this small area again, and it's all relative, right? So if he's moving at 1,000, move at 500 and stay inside this movement cone. Apply damage as he tries to orbit you, because again, the more energy he or she has, the easier it is to track them. Easier it is to track, easier it is to kill them. If they can hit you, you can hit them. Okay? Never forget that. And last, we'll talk about tricording, which just means triple coordinate movement, right? In space, obviously, there's no resistance. So the accumulation of your rear thruster, your side, and your upstrafe creates the movement direction that kind of goes on a diagonal. But because all three of your thrusters are firing together and it's pushing your ship into a triangular motion, like to a point of a triangle, it's going to give you an extra amount of thrust. It's going to give you those extra bits of G's because you're accumulating all three of your thruster positions. You can main thruster out, but you'll get more G-forces and more acceleration if you apply all three of your directions at the same time. And that pretty much wraps up today's video, guys. There's a lot of terminology out there, and if I've missed something or you want more clarification on more terminology, feel free to post in the comments, ask questions, get involved, join our Discord, and get involved getting 1% better every day. Thank you so much, guys, for watching this video. I hope this was helpful. I hope this cleared some things up. And don't forget, each of these videos has their own unique video associated to it. So if you want more information on each of these tactics or to go into greater detail, take a look at each of those individual videos. It might clear up some questions or help you understand Star Citizen's combat a little bit better. All right, guys, take a look at Predator mounts if you're interested in getting a mounting system for your joysticks. Use the code Avenger1 if you're interested in getting a discount. And as always, thank you so much from myself and everyone here at the team at Avenger Squadron. Thank you for supporting the stream. Thank you for supporting the channel. And thank you for supporting Star Citizen. Hope to see you all out there. Have a great day. I was Avenger1, and I'll see you next time.